Hello everyone. We've got a brand new story to share today, so let's jump right in. My name is Edward. Sometimes your wife doesn't notice your worth until another woman shows interest in you. It's like she thought you were replaceable, until someone else made her realize you weren't. I had been married to my wife, Christine, for 12 years when this happened at a neighborhood barbecue. Christine made a joke in front of everyone about trading me away, like I was some useless item she didn't mind giving up. People laughed, but I didn't. That joke stung more than she realized. Christine and I met when I was 27 and she was 26. Back then, things felt easy. I worked as a civil engineer for the county, steady job, good benefits, safe future. Christine worked in marketing at a mid-sized media agency, and she was confident, competent, and fun. We met on a dating app, matched, and started talking. Our first date was just drinks, but we clicked right away. The conversation flowed, we laughed a lot, and there was real chemistry between us. Within months, we were dating seriously. About a year later, we moved in together. 2 years into the relationship, we got engaged. Our wedding was nice. Both families came, everyone was happy, and we thought we were starting a solid life together. About 2 years after we got married, our son was born. Those early years were honestly good. We worked as a team, supported each other, and tried our best to be good parents. We shared responsibilities and felt like we were building the kind of stable family people dream of. I've always valued living simply and being responsible with money. I like saving for the future instead of buying things just to show off. I'd rather drive an older car that still works than buy a new one just for status. I prefer buying quality things that last instead of trendy items that go out of style in a few months. I kept an emergency fund, saved for retirement, and made sure we were financially secure. Maybe it's because I'm an engineer. I think logically, I hate waste, and I like making wise, efficient choices. At first, Christine seemed to agree with all of this. She supported my approach to money, listened to my plans, and even repeated my ideas about long-term security. Back then, we felt like partners who wanted the same future. Christine's attitude toward life changed with time. She started wanting a more expensive lifestyle. When she saw her friends showing off luxury bags, new cars, and foreign vacations on social media, she became frustrated that we weren't living the same way. She began suggesting that we spend more money on status items and showy experiences. She also started viewing my careful spending habits as a flaw. Instead of seeing my financial planning as responsible, she called it lack of ambition. She said my stable government job meant I was settling, instead of trying to do better. She pushed me to move to a higher-paying private sector job, even though I valued the job security and balanced life my work gave me. Christine began thinking of me as too simple, while she increasingly wanted trendy things and public approval. She wanted to upgrade our house to match our neighbors. She wanted newer cars, luxury vacations, designer clothes, and brand-name everything. To me, her desires came from comparison and insecurity, not genuine needs. It felt like she wanted these things because others had them, not because they would actually improve our lives. Small disagreements about spending slowly became constant tension. Every financial decision turned into an argument. Christine believed certain purchases were necessary for our image. I questioned whether we needed them or suggested cheaper options. She saw me as stingy. I saw her as obsessed with status. The resentment built up on both sides. She believed I lacked ambition. I thought she was becoming materialistic. Our physical intimacy also faded. We used to have a healthy sex life early in the marriage. It steadily declined. By the 10th year, we had sex maybe once every few weeks. By the 11th year, once a month. The emotional distance naturally created physical distance. Our conversations became short and tense. Christine often brought up something she wanted to buy or change. I raised concerns about cost or necessity. She became defensive and accusatory. I became quiet and withdrawn. The cycle repeated again and again. Her criticism of me increased. She made dismissive comments about my job, earnings, clothes, hobbies, and even my personality. She compared me to her friends' husbands, who she claimed had better careers or spent more boldly. She stopped appreciating what I contributed. She ignored the fact that my steady income and conservative financial choices had allowed us to build substantial savings. She never acknowledged my consistent involvement as a father in our son's life. She didn't value the stability I provided because it wasn't flashy. I stayed in the marriage primarily for our son. He was 11, and I didn't want him to experience a broken home. Also, divorce felt overwhelming, splitting custody, dividing our lives, starting from zero. It all felt too heavy. As things worsened, I felt invisible. More like a utility than a partner. Someone who provided income and childcare, not someone whose thoughts or feelings mattered. To avoid constant arguments, I stopped responding during Christine's long rants. Staying silent was easier than fighting about the same issues. Without meaning to, I emotionally detached from the marriage. I stopped trying to fix things because every effort was dismissed. I avoided intimate conversations because they always turned into criticism. I stopped reaching for affection because rejection hurt more than staying distant. I remained in the marriage physically, but emotionally, I felt completely alone. Our neighbors held monthly barbecues during the warmer months. They were adult-focused social events meant for everyone in the neighborhood. Usually, 20 or 30 people showed up, standing around the backyard with drinks, chatting about work, kids, and neighborhood gossip. Christine enjoyed these gatherings a lot. They gave her attention, an audience, and a chance to be charming. She dressed up, laughed loudly, told stories, and acted far more animated than she ever was at home with me. It was obvious that the social validation meant something to her. I attended because it was expected. I didn't hate them, but I didn't look forward to them either. I made polite conversation, drank a beer or two, and mostly observed rather than trying to be the center of anything. One late summer barbecue stands out. Christine and I were standing with a group of neighbors. The conversation shifted to relationships and marriage, casual jokes, the kind of teasing married couples do in groups. Then Christine said loudly, "Who wants to trade my husband? He's low maintenance, but has no ambition." People laughed. It was treated like a harmless joke. Typical marriage humor. I stayed silent. I was used to comments like that from her, and I had learned that responding only made it worse later. It was easier to let her get her laugh at my expense and move on. But then our recently divorced neighbor spoke up. She was in her late 30s and had divorced about 6 months earlier after openly cheating on her husband. Everyone knew about it. She had a reputation for flirting with married men, touching their arms, making suggestive comments, wearing outfits that made some of the wives uncomfortable, including Christine. With a tone that sounded like a joke on the surface, but carried real intention underneath, she said, "I'll take him." There was a slight pause before she looked straight at me and added, "So when should I pick you up?" The entire group went silent. People glanced between her, Christine, and me. The atmosphere shifted instantly from playful to tense. Christine's face changed immediately. The smug smile disappeared. What replaced it was a mix of shock, anger, and something close to fear. The divorced neighbor's comment had crossed a line. This wasn't a hypothetical joke about spouses. She had made a direct, public proposition. She had openly shown interest in me in front of everyone. This hit Christine harder than she expected. She knew the divorced neighbor's reputation. She had complained about her many times, calling her desperate, inappropriate, and attention-seeking. And now that same woman had singled me out, someone Christine had spent years treating as dull, unambitious, and barely good enough. For the first time in a long time, Christine saw someone else show genuine interest in me. She saw that another woman might actually want me. It challenged the picture she had built of me as the safe, simple, uninteresting husband. And Christine didn't like it. Her jealousy was immediate and visible, despite the years she spent acting like I was barely worth noticing. The group eventually moved on with awkward laughs, but the tension stayed. Christina's full social persona vanisha. We left the barbecue shortly after the incident. The drive home was silent. Our son was at a friend's house for a sleepover, so it was just the two of us. The moment we got home, Christine went cold. She didn't speak, didn't look at me, just walked straight to the bedroom and shut the door. It was her usual reaction whenever she was upset. Withdraw, wait for me to chase her, and expect an apology. This time, I didn't follow. I didn't try to talk. I didn't ask what was wrong, even though I knew exactly what had triggered her. I simply went about my evening as usual. For the next 2 days, Christine kept up the silent treatment. She spoke to our son as if everything were normal, but she ignored me completely. She avoided any room I was in. She left whenever I entered. It was punishment through distance, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. She was jealous, but refused to admit it. She was punishing me because another woman had shown interest I never asked for and never encouraged. Her own joke at the barbecue had backfired, and now she had to face the idea that someone else might actually find me attractive or valuable. I didn't retaliate. I didn't chase after her attention or try to make peace. I stayed calm and lived my life as usual. I went to work, came home. I treated her silence as her choice, not as a crisis I needed to solve. She clearly expected the old pattern. I apologize for something I didn't do, take responsibility for her insecurities, and reassure her. She wanted the same script we had followed through past conflicts. I didn't give it this time. My indifference wasn't a strategy. It was the truth. I was tired. I no longer had the energy to manage her emotions or absorb blame for problems she created. My lack of reaction unsettled her more than any argument could have. The calm distance bothered her. She was finally realizing her usual tactics weren't working anymore. 2 days after the barbecue, on a weeknight after our son had gone to bed, she finally broke the silence. She came into the living room where I was reading and sat down, clearly nervous. Her voice tried to sound casual, but the anxiety was obvious. "I hope you're not having anything with that divorced woman." The way she worded it was telling. Not an accusation. More like she wanted reassurance without appearing afraid. I looked at her and said calmly, "I will soon." Christine's face drained of color. She hadn't expected that. She had expected denial, comfort, and the usual reassurance. She stuttered, "What? Are you serious?" I shrugged. "You don't value me. If someone else does, why wouldn't I go where I'm appreciated?" What's its panic wash over here? She realized I might actually mean it. That the husband she dismissed and belittled could be wanted by someone else, and could choose to leave. She started backtracking immediately. "No, I value you. I was just joking at the barbecue. You know I didn't mean it." I didn't answer. I let her hear her own excuses. She continued, more desperate now. "Please don't do anything with that woman. Please. I know I haven't been. I know things haven't been good between us. But I don't want to lose you." Her whole demeanor had shifted, from defensive and cold to quiet and vulnerable. Her tone was low, almost embarrassed. She was admitting faults she had never revealed before. She apologized for the barbecue comment, for making me seem unambitious and undesirable in public, for dismissing what I contributed to our family, and for taking me for granted. I listened, but didn't accept the apology right away. I let her speak without jumping in to soothe her or make things easier. Eventually, I said, "I'll consider your words when your attitude toward me actually changes." Not before. It wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. I needed actions, not another round of empty promises. Christine asked what I meant by attitude change. What exactly did she need to do? I told her, "Stop the constant criticism. Stop making public jokes at my expense. Stop comparing our lives to others. Stop treating my financial caution like a flaw. Start appreciating what I contribute. Start treating me like a partner, not an inconvenience." She nodded and said she understood and that she would work on all of it. But I didn't believe words alone. I had heard promises before. What mattered was whether she actually changed, and whether that change lasted. The conversation ended without reconciliation. Just an understanding that things couldn't continue the way they had been, and that I wasn't going to keep accepting her behavior. In the days and weeks that followed, Christine began putting in visible effort. She spoke to me with more respect. She asked about my day in a way that felt sincere, not like a routine question. She included me in decisions instead of simply informing me of what she had already chosen. She stopped making jokes about me in front of friends and family. She also became more physically affectionate. She would touch my arm during conversations, sit closer to me on the couch, and occasionally initiate intimacy, something she hadn't done in months. She paid more attention to my preferences. She asked what I wanted for dinner instead of choosing automatically. She suggested activities she knew I enjoyed, rather than prioritizing only her own interests. These were small gestures, but they showed she finally saw me as a person with my own needs, not just an accessory in her life. I believed the possibility of losing me genuinely frightened her. It made her realize that I wasn't guaranteed to stay, no matter how she treated me. That someone else might appreciate what she had ignored for so long. That she could end up alone, much like our divorced neighbor, while I moved on to someone who actually valued me. She didn't want to become the wife who drove her husband into another woman's arms through years of disrespect. She didn't want to be the example people whispered about, the woman who destroyed her own marriage by taking her partner for granted. And she didn't want to lose the stability I had given her, even though she spent years complaining that it wasn't exciting enough. I didn't rush to forgive her or pretend everything was fixed. I kept my emotional distance and watched to see if her change would last. I held my boundaries firmly, making it clear what behavior I would accept and what I wouldn't. It hurt to realize that it took another woman's attention for Christine to appreciate me finally. Years of loyalty, consistency, and support hadn't been enough. Only the fear of losing me pushed her to offer basic respect and consideration. But it also revealed the real problem in our marriage with painful clarity. Christine had taken me for granted because she never thought I would leave. She treated me as replaceable because she believed I had no other options. She dismissed and criticized me freely because she assumed there would never be consequences. Months have passed since that barbecue, and while the marriage isn't fully repaired, it's noticeably different. Christine's effort has mostly held steady. She still slips into old habits, comparing, criticizing, but she stops herself faster than before. She still wants nicer things and lifestyle upgrades, but she talks about spending in a calmer, more respectful way. She still cares about social approval, but she no longer seeks it by putting me down or making me look small. Our physical intimacy has improved in a measurable, objective way. It's not like the early years of our marriage, but it's consistent again. It feels genuine, connected, and not forced. The emotional repair created the space for the physical part to return naturally. Our conversations are more honest and less explosive. Christine listens instead of lecturing. She asks what I think instead of assuming she's right. She acknowledges what I contribute instead of focusing only on what she thinks I lack. I'm cautiously optimistic, not fully trusting. I've seen enough pattern cycles to know that real change must be continuous, not temporary. People often fall back into old behavior once the immediate fear or pressure fades. Part of me worries that when Christine feels secure that I won't leave, her old habits may return. But for now, I'm seeing effort. I'm seeing real change. I'm seeing appreciation I hadn't seen in years. I realize something important. People often value what they fear they might lose. Christine had taken me for granted because she believed I would always stay, no matter how she treated me. The moment there was a real chance she could lose me, even unintentionally, through our divorced neighbor's interest, her entire attitude shifted. I also learned that public challenges to a relationship can expose truths that private conversations never will. Christine had dismissed countless discussions about me feeling undervalued, but she couldn't ignore another woman openly showing interest in me. Seeing someone else treat me as desirable made an impact that my own words never could. I learned the power of staying calm when a partner tries to create conflict. My refusal to chase Christine during her silent treatment and my unwillingness to immediately accept her apology showed a level of seriousness she had never seen from me. My genuine indifference bothered her far more than anger or emotional arguments ever did. I learned that boundaries only matter if you're ready to enforce them. When I told Christine I would consider her words only after her attitude changed, It wasn't a threat. It was a line. And the truth is, the willingness to lose the marriage if things didn't get better was the only reason anything improved. Most of all, I learned that some relationships only wake up when they are on the verge of collapse. Christine and I had been drifting toward divorce for years, slowly, quietly, through neglect and resentment. Another woman's interest and Christine's sudden fear created a crisis that forced us to face problems we had ignored for too long. Some people might judge Christine for only valuing me once another woman showed interest. They might say it proves she never appreciated me, that a marriage rebuilt on jealousy won't last. There is some truth in that. It would have been far better if Christine had recognized my worth on her own, without competition or panic. But I also understand that people are complicated and relationships are rarely ideal. Christine's materialism and need for status were fundamental flaws. But she also loves our family and doesn't want to lose it. And her attempts to change are sincere, even if her motivation began with fear rather than pure insight. Others might judge me for staying after years of feeling ignored and disrespected. They might say I should have left long before Christine finally decided I was worth fighting for. That staying shows weakness or lack of self-respect. I see that argument. There's truth in it, too. Maybe I stayed longer than I should have. Perhaps I should have set firm boundaries years earlier instead of letting myself fade into the background. But walking away from a marriage with an 11-year-old child isn't a simple choice. Trying to repair the relationship before ending it was reasonable. Giving Christine a chance to change once she finally understood the damage felt like the fair thing to do. I'm not pretending the marriage is magically fixed or that everything is perfect now. We're rebuilding slowly, and we're both aware that only time will show whether the changes last. But we're in a better place than we've been in years. The balance is healthier now. Looking ahead, I feel cautiously hopeful, not blindly optimistic. I understand that relationships don't heal overnight. Patterns built over the years don't disappear just because we've had a few honest conversations. Christine will have to keep putting in real effort, and I'll have to stay engaged instead of retreating the way I used to. For now, at least, we're moving in the right direction. The marriage isn't fixed, but it is improving. We're slowly rebuilding the foundation that had cracked from years of neglect, resentment, and taking each other for granted. And, ironically, I have our divorced neighbor to thank for the crisis that pushed us into this change. I haven't seen or spoken to her since that barbecue. My wife and I stopped going to neighborhood gatherings for a while, which is probably for the best. Seeing her now would feel uncomfortable for everyone. But the truth is, I'm strangely grateful to her, even though she'll never know it. Her inappropriate but honest interest forced Christine to see what she had been losing over the years through disrespect and dismissal. In a way, the divorced neighbor's moment of bad judgment ended up saving my marriage.